Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Complete Works. I'm your host, Doug Hess. If you're tuning in for the first time to The Complete Works, we'd like to welcome you to our show or to our podcast. And what we do on this podcast is we are looking at the film history of a particular actor, actress, director, or composer, and we just really work down their film career. Currently, we're working our way through the Nicolas Cage film career. And on this episode of The Complete Works, we're going to be discussing Running with the Devil, starring Nicolas Cage. If you'd like to find out more about The Complete Works podcast, you can go to film-book.com. Again, that's film-book.com by using the search term The Complete Works. You can also email us at podcast@film-book.com. Again, that's podcast@film-book.com. Put in the subject line, The Complete Works. You could also put in Running with the Devil. And if you like what you hear on this podcast, please hit the subscription button. So every time that a new podcast is available, it is automatically uploaded to wherever you listen to your podcast at. Now, if you're familiar with the show, what I like to do when talking about a particular movie is start off with a little bit of trivia, talk a little bit about the details, the box office success. I also want to go over who's in the movie, the cast, and then provide an overview of the film, talk a little bit about that, and then what we'll do is finish up talking regarding the reviews of the film, not only mine, but others as well. And then I also like to give a little rating on this. So let's go ahead and jump into this edition of The Complete Works, Running with the Devil, starring Nicolas Cage. And just really a couple of trivia, like a lot of the other films. It seems like we have a lot more, but on this one, I only could really find two that really stuck out. Nicolas Cage and Lawrence Fishburne were in two movies previously together. One of them was Rumble Fish back in 1983. The other was The Cotton Club back in 1994, which was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, which is Nicolas Cage's uncle. And then the second one, trivia that I found was this is the fourth collaboration between Nicolas Cage and Patriot Pictures, in which Patriot Pictures is the one that released this film. It was released on September the 20th, 2019, and the filming location was Albuquerque, New Mexico, here in the United States. Next thing I want to talk about is the cast and characters of this particular film. First of all, we want to talk a little bit about the director and the writer of the film, Jason Cabell. And what's really interesting about Jason Cabell is he is launching basically his Hollywood career with this particular movie, Running with the Devil, because Jason is a retired Navy SEAL. And so he wrote and directed this movie, Running with the Devil, and it has a lot of stars in it. It's really a star-filled picture that offers insight into the lower levels of the drug trade without forgetting to deliver the punch of the thrills, etc. And I had read in one of my parts of the research that I was doing for this film is that Jason Cabell actually did some time in Panama with the SEALs training, not really training, I should say, but more with the SEALs action when he was doing drug enforcement for the Navy SEALs down in Colombia. So kind of thought that was kind of a little interesting. And then some other things that I kind of took from it is that Jason then took his experience as being a SEAL and with the drug trade and really put it into this movie. So I thought that was kind of interesting to talk about Jason, which, like I said, he both directed and written the movie in terms of that. What's interesting, and I talked about some of the other lead actors that was in here, both, like I said, Nicolas Cage and Lawrence Fishburne takes lead roles in the picture. But what is, I think, really exciting is that Jason also assembled some great supporting cast that loaded with more familiar faces than we're usually seeing in this type of modest, low-budget action film. You'll recognize Barry Pepper from Saving Private Ryan's, Adam Goldberg, also from Saving Private Private Ryan, Leslie Bibb from Talladega Nights, Clifton Collins Jr. from the movie Traffic, and then Cole Hauser from Yellowstone. All had great performances in this, even though they were more smaller roles than what we typically see some of these characters playing in. So I thought that was interesting that he was able to get some other big names to go along with Nicolas Cage and Lawrence Fishburne in this particular movie. So we talked about the release time and the release date, etc. This film did approximately $111,000 worldwide. It runs approximately 100 minutes in length, to give you a little bit of the length of the film in terms of that. A couple things to keep in mind that I thought was kind of interesting in this film is that the director did not give anyone a name in the movie, but every character is identified on screen by a title. And I'll give you some examples on this. So Nicolas Cage, his character owns a pizza parlor. That's a front for the drug business. And so his name is The Cook. So he just goes by The Cook in the movie. Fishburne is a dealer who becomes high on his own supply. He's simply called The Man. Some of the others that we see in this movie is Cole Hauser. He is the executioner. Leslie Bibb is agent in charge. Let's see here. Who else we got here? Barry Pepper is the boss. Adam Goldberg is the snitch. So as you can see, none of them had character names other than a title that I thought worked pretty well and is a little different than what we normally see when it comes to movies like this. So kind of a new, fresh take on characters. So what is the storyline? What is Running with the Devil all about? So there's a CEO of a international conglomerate sends two of his most regarded executives to investigate why shipments of cocaine are being hijacked and overcut somewhere on the supply chain. And so a large batch of cocaine smuggled from Mexico to Canada through the United States is mysteriously lost. Along the way, the head of the drug cartel instructs his two assistants, the cook, Nicolas Cage, and the man, Lawrence Fishburne, to figure out just what is going on with everything and where and what exactly went wrong in the process. So Cook and the man must check the entire chain of international drug trafficking, crossing borders while trying to slip away from the feds and not getting caught. So that's really a quick scenario of Running with the Man in terms of that. So let's see here. A couple other things to talk about with the movie. So the movie really follows a kilo of cocaine from the fields of Colombia to the nightclubs in Canada and examines all the distribution the trades leads in its wake as packages make its way to its final destination. What I thought was kind of interesting in here with this particular movie, first of all, I would say that the last few movies that we really talked about with Nicolas Cage, you could tell that they were B movies. I'm going to say that they were thrown together pretty quickly. Some of the dialogue, etc., was not the best. And I thought you saw Nicolas Cage played some really weird, crazy individuals in some of the past movies that we've talked about. I would say that in this particular film, Running with the Devil, that Nicolas Cage is, if nothing else, is kind of back to that performance that we expect and we kind of demand from Nicolas Cage. I would also say that I thought Lawrence was the one, if anything, played a little bit more crazy in this film and kind of took the burden off of Nicolas Cage of being the weird individual in this film, and Lawrence was really the one that was on this. So if you have a movie with both Nicolas Cage and Lawrence Fishburne, this should be a little bit more crazier than it was, but it wasn't necessarily a bad film. I mean, it wasn't by no stretch of the imagination terrible or bad. The movie was good enough to want to keep me watching all the way to the end, all 100 minutes. And I would also argue that it kind of got a little bit better at the end of the movie than it did at the beginning. It's like I said, it's really better than some of the other movies that we've talked about, like 211 or A Score to Settle, some movies that we've already talked about. Is it up to his Academy Award-winning movie or even the National Treasures? No, I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that it wasn't necessarily a terrible film either. Now, some of the other reviews that I came across that I think you might be interested in is that some of them are saying Nicolas Cage is back, that it's about time that Hollywood got behind Nicolas Cage and he's really becoming a comeback. One critic said the movie is Cage like Pulp Fiction was for John Travolta. Running with the Devils gives the audience a taste of how complex illegal drug supply chain management is. It's one thing which the movie focused on, of which others have failed to do, is emphasize the quality control and continuously. Hence the reason why some are claiming that so many lives are being run. Running with the Devil has a subtle, intense, mixed with just the right taste or dose of action in terms of that. So I think what probably gives this the feel that a lot of people were really encouraged about is that Jason, being a former Navy SEAL, actually is kind of going from experience, going from some real life action. There's no doubt in my mind, this is me talking and not Jason, that he probably lifted some of this stuff from things that he saw, changed it around a little bit, absolutely, but really gave it that little kick of reality that we want to see and we thought that we saw in the film. So I would say kudos to that, and I think that's really a positive for the film. The movie may not win any awards, in my opinion, but it wasn't necessarily a bad movie. I would say overall it was a pretty solid film in terms of that. The story is interesting and different from the usual kind of narcotics or cartel type of movie, so I think that's also another plus for this film. The acting by all the cast is strong in the film with strong, believable characters, and the production is good. I think that is because you have solid actors in here, even though they might have had smaller roles. They actually are believable and come across worthwhile. This isn't the type of action where everyone goes nuts kind of film, which is a good thing for this particular story, I thought. And so would I say that it's worth watching? Absolutely it is. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this a 7 in terms of viewing. It was just like I said, it was different. And once I watched the film for the second time, and what I like to do is watch it one time, kind of get an idea, and then I go back and I watch it after I do some research, when I get my trivia, etc. in there. Sometimes that'll put new light on the particular film or an episode that I'm watching. And I think it did on this one. And after I had read some things about Jason, like I said, being the retired Navy SEAL, it really brought some things to light. Now, it could be that it was just my interest and I was reading into the film more than it really should have been. But I would say overall, it's definitely well worth the chance to watch it. And I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. Like I said, Nicolas Cage does a wonderful job in this film compared to some of his other films that he has been in that we've reviewed lately. Lawrence Fishburne, does a wonderful job as well, adding his character being the man into the film. And I think his craziness and the way he interpreted the character was spot on, and it was something that was definitely needed in terms of that. in terms of that film. So really good in terms of that. I would also say, since this was Jason's first particular movie as a writer director and really being on the big screen, I would say I was pretty impressed by it, being able to capture not only the feel of the movie, but the way that he was able to take the direction of the movie. Like I said a little bit earlier in my notes here, that it was just kind of that great mix, a little bit of action, but not too much, and that things were believable in terms of the film. But it also kind of gave a new look or a new feel on the drug trade and the cartels, etc. It wasn't your same old run-of-the-mill type of movie where you just copy paste, and reproduce the film. So to me, that was refreshing, and that was really, basically a refreshing look at this film, Running with the Devil, starring Nicolas Cage. I think also what helps Nicolas Cage in this particular film is that he is surrounded by other good, not only characters, but he's also surrounded by other good actors and actresses. And I know that I had mentioned the movie Traffic, which, trying to think here, who was in Traffic? Losing my train of thought. Oh, it was Clifton Collins Jr. that was in Traffic. That starred Michael Douglas, and I thought that movie worked as well. The reason is because there was a lot of top name actors and actresses in that particular movie, and to some degree, I think sometimes you just feed off of other quality individuals there. So. If there was a bad thing, and I really liked the movie Traffic, probably the way I could describe the two, because we're talking about drugs and cartels, etc., is that I think that Traffic went into a more deep approach into the subject, whereas Dancing with the Devils, Running with the Devil, excuse me, didn't, but that was okay. It was entertaining and far better than some of the usual stuff that we see coming out in these types of movies. There were some twists, there were some turns. The plot was right on. And again, like I said, I just want to end by saying that I think the movie was definitely well worth watching. And I think it's going to be something that you will enjoy too to watch. Running with the Devil, starring Nicolas Cage. So I want to thank you for listening to this episode of The Complete Works. You can find more of our work on film-book.com. Again, that's film-book.com. You can just search for Doug Hess or The Complete Works. You can also find me on Twitter at HessDoug14. Again, that's HessDoug14. If you're interested in learning or listening to other podcasts on iTunes or another podcast service, please rate and review this episode. If you are listening to this podcast on our YouTube channel, FilmBook Podcast, please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment in the comment section.